The business of medicine is constantly changing. The review by Resolve discusses current contract issues for physicians, compensation trends, and tips for a successful career. Every physician's contract and career is different, and nothing in this episode should be considered legal advice. If you have specific questions about your career, please consult with an attorney. Now, on to the show.
All right, welcome back to the review. We are here today with Angela Lopez. We're going to talk more immigration and J-1 visa rules and requirements for physicians. We've done a couple episodes prior to this on other J-1 issues. So Angela, thanks for joining us again.
Well, thank you, Kyle. Pleasure being with you here today.
Yeah, you bet. Well, let's talk about some of the things we haven't touched on yet is responsibilities and kind of requirements of an employer. So a health system or hospital that's looking, or even private practice that's looking to hire a physician that has a J-1 visa, what are the obligations of the employer?
Okay, so mainly the obligations of an employer is to have the 3-year contract. Okay. They cannot have non-compete clauses, and the work location where the physician is going to work, and it can be more than one work location. Okay, a physician can work in different locations. It's very common for nephrologists that they have so many locations to visit. Sure. But they all have to be in underserved areas.
Okay.
For waivers, J-1 waivers, IAG or interest government agencies like the Conrad 30, the underserved area has to be HPSA, which is a health professional shortage area.
Okay.
MUA, mental underserved area. PMUA, which is population medical underserved areas. And then you have the MHPS, which is mental. For psychiatrists, it has to be MHPS, mental health professional shortage area. Okay, so MUAs, HPSAs, PMUAs, or MHPS, and you get confused with all those.
I was just saying that's a lot of acronyms. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Just know that it has to be underserved area. Okay.
So not every employer then is what you're telling me. Not
exactly. And we talked about misconceptions before, and let me say this is another misconception that any hospital can sponsor a J-1 waiver, and you can. Well, unless the location is underserved in an underserved designated area, it will not qualify. This employer or the hospital will not qualify for a waiver. Okay. Now, there's one of the waivers that I like a lot for primary care physicians, the DHHS waiver. That requires that the HPSA or the health professional shortage area have a minimum score of 7.
Okay.
For the other waivers, there's no minimum scores. As long as they are HPSA, MUA, or whatever, they qualify for the waiver. And it doesn't have to be HPSA or MUA. It could be a combination or can be one of the other. Be careful, and there is where I tell people when they start looking into what are my options for a waiver, understand if you're going to a specific state and is through the Conrad 30, you want to know what are the specific requirements for underserved areas. Because some states, and I say this for Texas, for example, they do not locations that are MUA, medical underserved areas, populations, they're not qualified for waivers. But the HPSAs are. So you need to understand what are the specific state requirements if you're going through the Conrad 30 state program. But in general, and this is the state, Department of State, the location has to be designated underserved.
Okay. So there's a lot there to unpack, and it almost feels like you won't know whether the employer qualifies until you have some understanding of what waiver program you're going to go through, because the Conrad has different requirements than the DHHS does. I think there's also this conception that it's only for rural areas, right? Like I can't go to work in a major city. Yeah, you're shaking your head no. Tell us about that distinction.
Yes, no. The problem with the big cities or the rural areas is that you may not have a lot of underserved areas. And there are cities that when I'm looking into waivers or I'm doing working with someone, the first thing I want is just give me the address. Don't tell me the county of Dallas, because it's huge, and most of it is not underserved. Okay, no,
Yeah.
give me an address and I can look it up. So rural versus urban, not huge difference other than in urban areas, you're not going to find a lot of underserved areas.
Sure.
In addition, and this one is key because some waivers, some states do give preference to locations in rural areas.
Hmm.
So if you have a waiver and your location is going to be in a rural area and is one of those very competitive states that they, and again, I talk about Texas because I do a lot of waivers in Texas, but let me give you an example. In Texas, they are first come, first serve. They receive 30 waivers. Usually they receive a little bit more than 30. But when it comes down to deciding which are the waivers they want to sponsor, even if it is first come, first serve, they have rules that if they have 2 or 3 applications competing under the same whatever, they start looking at who is in a rural area because they want to see those areas to have the medical attention they need.
So if you're late in the process, or if you're concerned about waiver approval and you've got 2 different offers, one's in a rural area, one's in a metro, you're saying to remove some of that risk, maybe the rural area is going to be more likely to get approved.
Depending on the state and the program, because if it is an SCRC, no worries, don't worry. If it is a DHHS, no problem, as long as it scores 7, they don't. So, but if your only option is the contract 30, take a look at the rules of the specific state you're going to go to understand what are the probabilities that my waiver is going to be approved.
Yeah, there's a lot there. This is why attorneys specialize. So we deal with physician contracts all day, and this is stuff that is, we are like, hey, go talk to Angela or an immigration attorney that does this because it's really detailed. Okay, I've got another question for you. We don't see a lot of experience or just what happens kind of post waiver approval, and that's kind of step 1 in the next immigration process for our candidates. Tell us what happens once the waiver is approved.
Okay, so once the waiver is approved, remember the process is a 2-step kind of process. Once you get the waiver approved, then you have to obtain the H-1B visa to work. So what we see mainly here is the J-1 waiver process takes somewhere between 4 to 6 months, and the ideal situation is that the H-1B visa is approved before the physician finish the training. Usually is at the end of June. So they can change the status and start working in July, no problems, okay? So that's the ideal situation. Once the H-1B is approved, a couple of things physicians need to be aware of is they are obligated to work with the employer that sponsored the waiver for full 3 years, not 299 days. It's three full years, okay? If they, for whatever circumstances, and here is where we go with extenuating circumstances, if they can't continue to work with that employer, and it happens, okay? And they want to change employers before the 3 years are met, they have to demonstrate to the Department of Immigration extenuating circumstances. What is that? Well, circumstances, something I did not cause. I was doing well. I did not cause that my employment, I can't work with this employer, one, because they laid me off. Okay, so I'm on. They close the practice, extenuate, they'll go work. As long as they go to work in another underserved area, they can transfer their H-1B visas.
Okay.
But it's not like, oh, I don't like that employer. Well,
yeah, so I was just going to say that exact phrase. So what if it's just, I don't like being here, right? This is a mistake. I want to go somewhere else. No good option.
For 3 years, full 3 years. I have had circumstances where sometimes employers want to change the work location to locations that may not be underserved. That's extenuating circumstances because physicians can work in other locations that are not underserved. So that if that's the only option, they will have a good cause to change employers or other situations. But it has to be there has to be something they didn't cause and makes it almost impossible for them to continue to work with that employer. So that's key. It's a full 3 years. Once they complete the 3 years, then they can work in any place, any location, no underserved locations, they're done. with the waiver obligation.
Because then their status is still H-1B, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. They have to be in H-1B for the full 3 years.
Gotcha.
That goes to, if they want to get a green card, they might be able to start the process within those 3 years, but they won't be able to finalize it until they meet the 3 years.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the 3 years start counting from the day they start working. So, for example, the H-1B was approved on July 1st, but they didn't start working until July 15th. From July 15, you count 3 years, let's say July 15, 2025 to July 14, 2028.
Yeah, really good to know. We often have clients coming in saying they want to leave as soon as possible, right? Not that it's a breach of contract situation, but they're just not happy. And so I think that, the July 1st to July 15th, sometimes that makes a big difference, and we want to make sure they're aware of that. Okay, so I want to close with this, and this is, I don't know if you can talk on this as long as you want, but we know that there's a shortage of physicians right in the country, and we know that IMG certainly helped fill that void. Are there any policy changes that you're aware of that are coming, or what's the discussion at a higher level about how to help solve that problem?
Yes, many discussions for too many years, still discussing it. Hopefully, what we are seeing are more waiver programs being created with better options. I mentioned the ones that have already been created for the Northeast and the Southeast, and there's been talks about creating one for the part of that covers Texas, California, which is to the west.
Yeah.
And it has a specific name I can't remember, but they're working on getting that something, because Texas, for example, Arizona, and a couple of other South states, they don't have any options but Conrad.
Okay.
And that limits, well, the HHS, but that's only primary care.
Right.
That limits the number of waivers, and the scarcity of physicians is bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
I work specifically, I'm part of an organization, the Immigration, IMG, International Medical Graduates Task Force, and we're very proactive, and we're always talking to legislators and people, and we usually have a day when we do our CLEs or a conference, and we go to Congress. So we're constantly talking to the legislators to improve, probably increase the 30 contract to 40 or 50, right? And create other programs. In general, I don't hear right now a lot of talks of imminent changes to the J-1 physicians or the physicians programs. They are what they are. I think that the talks are mainly towards creating better programs or increasing the numbers so that we facilitate bringing physicians to the United States in bigger numbers.
Yeah, no, that's, we see similar things on the employment side, right, with like the FTC and the non-compete issues, and it sometimes does take years, right, for that stuff to work through, and then states will maybe pick up some of that advocacy too. So it is nice to see some additional programs coming in, so it's not just Conrad 30. I mean, I think that's absolutely helpful. So
I agree.
Angela, we appreciate all your help, all your education, all your insights. If anybody needs help on immigration stuff, Angela's a great resource. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Kyle, for the opportunity. Hope to see you soon again.
All righty, take care.
Until next time. Take care.